Okay, so all of you are able to see my screen? Everyone? Is the screen visible?
Yes, yes, can see.
Yes, sir.
So the next topic that is front-end web development, as I told you, is a very big area. Okay, you have HTML, CSS, JavaScript framework, and all the topic which I gave you for your seminar. It's a quite a vast area. Okay, so literally what I have done for you is that I have clearly told you the basics. Okay, and from that basic you should be able to learn from that. The reason why I have stuck on to teaching only the basic is that, as I have previously told you, I studied HTML nearly 22 years back. That is in the year probably 97 or 98, somewhere I studied. So that time you had the basic HTML1. During that time you have Netscape Navigator and Internet Explorer. You didn't have Chrome or Firefox and all those stuff. So these two were the predominant browsers. Like you have MarQ tag, then there was something called Blink tag in those times. So these two are the predominant ones. And over the years, a lot of additions have come to the web space. Now, if you, for example, you take the entire screen, if you look at the screen, previously you had only CRT monitors, so 4:3, that was the aspect ratio. Then in 2005 you had monitors with different screen sizes, you had mobile devices coming, so the techniques of showing the web page to different devices were changing over time. And by the change that was brought about each and every time, some of the techniques got updated, or this front end, all this web development, they were constantly changing. What didn't change was certain things which I have taught you. These haven't changed over the 22 years and will not change for the foreseeable future. Apart from that, you should have the capability or imagination of how to design. Designing is not something that you can teach. I can't teach you to draw. Only if you have some capability, I can give you some directions. That is the same thing with front-end web development. Okay, so it's not just like C programming language where you just master C and all the 16 syntax. Once you learn, you can go and do something. This is not like that. You have to, if you, for example, you are telling tomorrow that I am a web developer, means you have to know how to design a web page using HTML. You have to know how to use forms. You have to know all the latest techniques which I have given you as our seminar, like Bootstrap, Canvas, right, responsive design. If you take CSS, for instance, nowadays CSS has evolved so much that you have a separate language like SAS, which I gave you as your seminar. So that is the advanced version of CSS. Okay, so you have to know how to work with XML. There are a lot of things that have changed over the few couple of years. Lot of techniques, technology to adapt to mobile pages, sorry, mobile screens, mobiles, tablets. So to adapt to this, there is a lot of things that is brought. Previously you didn't have division tag, nowadays it is there. Previously you had frame tags, but nowadays you don't have that. Okay, so how to arrange all the different components in different type of screens, so that's where Bootstraps comes in. So a lot of techniques and technologies have been built up. Even JavaScript has been replaced by certain frameworks, which you have done as an assignment last class. So these things have been going on for the past couple of years. Okay, so the front end we have all seen. Now we are coming to the back end. Okay, so CGI is actually called Common Gateway Interface. Okay, so this is your syllabus, which I have divided into three parts. The first part is actually CGI. Then we look at the database, and finally the server security and security issues. Okay, so scripting languages was the last topic in the unit, but I put it in the first because I want it to be with the front end. Okay, so that's why I'm coming in the opposite direction now, right? So we are going to see about CGI. then we are going to see about database, and then we are going to see about security in detail. Now, before going to CGI, let me show you this particular diagram, which is at the end. Yeah. So this is called as a three-tier architecture. You have the client, you have the middle tier, and you have the database. So this, as I have previously told you, this is the front end, which you call the front or the place where the client interacts. This will be your backend server, okay, or you call it as a backend or the web server, and then you have the database to store the data. This is called as the three-tier architecture, right? I hope you know this already. So what is actually CGI? It stands for something called as Common Gateway Interface. So you know what is a gateway, correct? When you are coming to the university, you have a gate, okay? So the university has a very big area. Although you can literally come inside through any other way, you prefer to come through the front gate. So that is an entry point. And then you have a word interface. So what is actually an interface, right? So suppose I want the processor to add two numbers. Can you go and tell the processor add two numbers and give me? You can't. You have an interface like a calculator where you punch in certain numbers and punch certain other buttons to get the outputs. Okay, so this is how normally an interface works. So this is common gateway interface means what? A gateway with an interface so that you can come in and go out. Now what is that going to do? It is a technology that enables a web browser to submit forms and connect to the programs over a web server. So what you are basically doing? It enables the web server to submit forms, okay, and connect to the web server. So coming back to this one, as I told you, yeah. So here what I am going to do, I am taking a web form, okay, a form which you have designed, get that input and pass it over here. So it is coming through this particular channel alone. So that is called as the gateway. Right. It is the best way for a web server to send forms and connect to programs on the server. CGS also can be described as a set of rules, program or scripts that can send data back to the web server where it can be processed. So all processing, as I previously told you, backend is program, front end is backend is what? Backend is actually a program, okay? So front end is actually script, that is command based language. So whatever you give, it will execute. There is no compiler, there is only a translator. If for example the third line in HTML is wrong, it will just leave it and go to the fourth line or fifth line and continuously go on. But programming language means what? First it has to be compiled, it has to be converted into zeros and ones, that is machine code, and then only it can execute. Okay, so all the processing part, because a form cannot be processed in the client side, so that processing has to take place in the backend, right? So that's where the CGI comes in, where it sends the form data. It provides an interface where you can send your form to the backend to get processed, to get the data and then come back. So imagine that you have a booking application, you want to book a ticket for a certain date. So you want to know whether there are seats available. So what you do in the form, you submit what query you want. Query in the sense question. So you can't ask the computer directly the question, correct? So you have a form where you put in your details, whatever you want, you send it, the server, the backend will process it, get the data from the database and send the result back to you. So this is called as the CGI. So this is how a typical CGI works. You have used the HTTP protocol to connect with the web server. The web server is basically all the files, disk files or whatever. The CGI will be a program, can be any server program which will interact with the database or files. The web server has certain programs, so that's what is given here. Okay, So this entire thing, this is how CGI works. So more elaborate way of how CGI works is given over here. So here you have the browser, that is www World Wide Web. You can see there is an HTML page on the screen. You have a form on top of that. So what the user will do, the user will request a form first of all. So this browser will go to the server, it will retrieve from that and send that form to the client. Now what will the user do? He will fill that form and submit it back. Now the server, it will send it to the CGI application, which is this one. It will process. If it wants, it will get the data from the database, and then it will send the server output to the server. The server will send it back to the client, and the client can see the result. So basically the form I'm submitting, it is processing, getting the data. So for processing, it is using the CGI application, that is which database it has to connect. Okay, and then it is coming back to the same. So you can, as you can see, there is no processing going on in the front end. All processing is going on the back end. So that's where the CGI comes. So hope you now understand where this particular thing stands. So these are the features of CGI. So it's a very well defined and supported standards. Okay, it's mainly written in Perl or C, or it can be written as a shell script. It is a technology that it interfaces with the front end HTML. It is the best method to create a counter. That is, counter is used for checking values whether this has happened or not. And it's relatively quick also, and it's compatible with most of the browsers. So the advantage is it's a much easier platform than Java. It's easier to code. Using script language you can code it, and CGI specifies the programs can be written in any language. Okay, no need to stick on to a particular language, you can have any language. And CGI based counters code to perform simple tasks are available in Penti. So there are a lot of codes that are predefined codes that are available, which you can write for your processing. The disadvantages of CGI are, it's a common gateway interface. So each page load includes overheads. Okay, by having to go to the programs in the memory. Generally data can be easily cached in the memory between page loads. So there is a huge code base, which is much of it is only in Perl, and CGI uses a lot of processing time. Okay, so one important aspect of CGI is there something called as environmental variables. So environmental variables means, for example, you take your system. Okay, so your system will be called as an environment. So once you log into your screen, you see a desktop picture in the back. You have certain settings like clock or something you have placed on the desktop, right? You have put your own color and themes. So this is your environment which you have set. So when you are logging into the computer, how will the computer know that this is your preferred one? That's what is called as an environmental variable. Okay, so it's a variable which will have certain values which will be the customer preference. So you go to, for example, Microsoft Word, and you select the theme as blue or gray or silver or something. Each time when you go, it will be blue or whatever you have selected, that only will be there. How will the compiler know that you are done? Because you have set the environment. So this is the environment I want. Every time you come, it will take from the environment. The same goes with backend web development also. So you have document roots, that is a root directory of your server. Then you have HTTP cookies. Cookie you all know. So each time you log into a website, it will take some details and put it in your system. So that is called cookie. Then you know what is a host. Host is the host name. Like for example, www.google.com means it is the server. Then HTTP referrer, that is the URL of the page. Agent is the type of browser of the visitor. So what browser the visitor is using. HTTPS, a secured server. Path is the system path your server is running under. query string. Okay, so query string is actually, for example, when we study the next topic, you will understand what is query and all those things. We'll see. This is the address of the visitor, the address of the host, okay, or the host name. Port is the one where you connect to your physical system. User is a username. Request method, there are two methods. So for example, you are sending a form data, means it will go to the server using the URL. Okay, so if, for example, you type your username password and you click it, it will go directly through the username. You can see the URL changing after you press submit, right? So that is how it gets to the server. There are two methods to get your server data. One is get and another is post. This is uniform resource identifier, the name of the script file, okay, the path name of the script file, okay, what is the admin name, okay, server port, software. All these are CGI environment variables which is stored as cookies in your system. Okay, so the next topic is how to connect to a database, which we will see in the next class. Okay.